Hey, my name is Amanda Matson, and this is my extreme makeover presentation for Nursing 713, Organizational and Systems Leadership for the Advanced Practice Nurse, Spring 2021. This is the table of contents. We're going to go through each one of these things during this discussion. Introduction and learning outcomes. The purpose of this presentation is to provide ways that effective communication within an organization can and will create a better relationship among colleagues that will be proven by better patient outcomes and quality of care. By the end of this presentation, you will learn that high-stress environments should not emotionally hijack someone and break down the quality of communication. So the guy on the left is thinking, I need to tell these people something, and the people on the right are listening. So what kind of response do you want from the people who are listening? My organization's mission statement is we are dedicated to improving the overall well-being of our community by executing our mission to extend the healing ministry of Christ through holistic, people-centered healthcare. In doing this, we hope to set a new standard in service and devotion to the people of Central Alabama. On the right is a screenshot from our website that is the core of excellence, which is our values through our daily work. Integrity, service, quality, transparency, and innovation. So this is my scenario, and it's how effective communication can affect a stressful day in the emergency department. So one day last year, we received an ambulance call that a 50-year-old male was headbutted by a cow, had a laceration across his nose, and may have a broke nose. Vital signs stable, estimated time of arrival 15 to 20 minutes. The patient arrives to the freestanding ER, unrecognizable to me, but wearing a Fayetteville football t-shirt, which is where my daughters go to school. So I had to look real hard. He was awake, moaning in pain, and his entire face was swollen. As he rolled through the door, the ER physician was yelling at the paramedics. Whose decision was it to bring this man here? Y'all are staying here to help us take care of this mess y'all brought to the freestanding ER. This is not a trauma center. I went to the bedside and looked with a real questioned look on my face and said, Coach Limbaugh? He nodded and moaned. I said, this is Amanda Matson, Madeline and Kimber's mom. We're going to take good care of you. All while I was literally scared to death on the inside of what was before my eyes. This is what rolled through the door. The emergency team went to work while the paramedics stood close by, assisting where they could. The first breakdown in communication that I noticed was that the report that the nurse received from the paramedics was inaccurate. And so we weren't really able to prepare for what was coming. The second breakdown was that the ER physician yelling at the paramedics because of the inaccurate report that we received. So Coach Limbaugh had at least 5 fractures in his face, across the bridge of his nose, both cheeks, his orbit, and his jaw. So whenever I saw him and we were working on him, I remember going to the ER doctor and I said, hey, do you want me to get Lifesaver on standby? Go ahead and have them land on the helipad and be here for when we need them. And he said, no, we don't need them. Let's get these scans done and see what we're dealing with. And I remember looking at him. I had the lab tubes in my hand, and I said, if this was my daddy or yours, we'd have Lifesaver here. And I turned around and walked off and went to the lab. So the scan showed major facial trauma, but no other internal injuries of the brain or any other organs. Once we got him stabilized and transferred to the nearest trauma center, the ER physician came up to me and explained that he didn't want to take resources from the community until it was a necessity. I understood and apologized and explained that I was trying to advocate for the patient, but that the stress of the situation and the personal relationship with him made me approach it the wrong way. These are pictures after his first surgeries. Coach Limbaugh went on to make a full recovery and remains the head football coach at Fayetteville High School, and he's also the athletic director. Now, every time he speaks to me or sees me, even if he's talking to somebody, he says, "That's one of the nurses that saved my life. That's Madeline and Kimber's mom, Amanda Matson." Before starting this presentation, I reached out to him and asked if he minded if I used his story or the pictures that were made public. His response was, "Sure, I'll help you any way I can." So looking back on this incident, there were no real conversations of any outside departments. The only people that really talked about it were my colleagues, and they really just asked me if I had any updates, just because my kids went to school there. I lived in the community, so I was friends with his family and all on social media. These types of conversations tell me that I work with a team that has a true concern for patients and a true compassion about what we do. So, organization as a conversation. There are 4 different types: initiative, understanding, performance, and closure. So, initiative conversation, we talked to our nurse manager about it. She got in touch with the emergency department EMS liaison, to really talk to them about accurate patient reports and what patients are appropriate to come to the freestanding emergency room. Understanding conversations. I really feel like that whenever the ER physician walked up to me to explain to me why we didn't need Lifesaver, that was an understanding conversation, so that I would better understand why he didn't need that at the time or didn't see that it was necessary, because he was looking at the big picture of the community. Performance conversations. I think when the ER physician held the paramedics accountable for their field assessment and patient report to the nursing staff, as well as, held them in the ER to get them to help us take care of him because of our lack of resources in the building. Once all this was over, the ER physician did make a point to let the staff know that he was pleased with our performance and the overall outcome of the patient, because of the limited amount of resources we have just by nature of the freestanding emergency department. So, patterns of relating. So in this particular instance, alpha participants would have been the physician and the charge nurse. Caregiver participants would have been staff nurses and respiratory therapists. And then task participants would have been like paramedics, support staff, and ancillary departments, because we had, like, our x-ray department was helping answer phones and make arrangements for transfer. Everybody was pitching in to do their part. Patterns of meaning. So an improved field assessment would mean a better patient outcome. Training to be offered for high stress situations, and then staff being recognized for superior patient care by weekly emails and kudos. So ways of talking, listening, and being. Be clear and straightforward. Listen to understand instead of listening to respond. Be engaged in the conversation. Mindful of not just the words that are used, but the way that you're voicing those words. Practice the pause before speaking. Be aware of body language. Remove any distractions. Listen to learn, and eye contact. To not be afraid to improve communication within a department. Build relationships with groups. Use emails to make sure all staff members are aware of anything going on in the department. Train the staff for high stress situations, and then leadership training for charge nurses on effective communication. So when talking about training for high stress situations, that would include emotional hijacking, not procrastinating, team building with local paramedics and emergency room staff. The things that I would change about my scenario would be, I would question the paramedics more about the patient's condition. If the patient would have went straight to a trauma center, then the ER physician would not have lost his temper when talking to the paramedics. And I would have offered to the physician that Lifesaver could be on standby, but kept my cool and emotionally detached myself from the patient care that was before me, trusting that the physician was doing what was best and looking at the big picture instead of having tunnel vision like I did. So whenever the paramedics called report and gave us this short, simple report, the nurse could have said, well, how much pain is he in? Is there any other facial trauma? Is he able to talk? Just a few simple extra questions may have diverted him straight to a trauma center. And then when it comes to being forceful as a patient advocate, sometimes you have to just stop and listen and then look at the big picture and trust the leaders that are ahead of you, that they are doing what's best. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.